This chart summarizes the relationship between price levels and gross domestic product, or GDP per capita, of economies in the Arab region, while also showing the respective size of each economy based on the results from the 2017 International Comparison Program, or ICP. Let's see how it's constructed. These two bubbles represent the GDPs of Egypt and the United Arab Emirates in their local currencies. But the sizes of the bubbles are not yet comparable since one is in Egyptian pounds and the other in United Arab Emirates dirhams. In order to compare them, they need to be in the same currency. So let's convert them into dollars. Do we use market exchange rates? No. To compare the real size of economies, purchasing power parities, or PPPs, are the better measure because not only do they express economic output in a common currency, they also adjust for differences in price levels across economies. Using PPPs, we can convert the GDP of each economy into real terms. Let's add Saudi Arabia. To compare standards of living across different economies, let's align them by GDP per capita, which is GDP divided by population. The horizontal axis expresses GDP per capita in PPP terms, with the lowest GDP per capita on the left and the highest on the right. Adding the remaining economies, the sizes of the bubbles and their locations on the horizontal line show the relationship between GDP and GDP per capita, both in PPP terms, of the Arab economies. The vertical axis shows the price level. Let's examine what it means. Suppose you can buy this basket of goods with 100 coins in your country. If you travel to Egypt, a basket of the same quantity and quality of goods would cost about 1,633 Egyptian pounds, which can be exchanged using the market exchange rate into 35 coins of your local currency. If you go to UAE, the same basket would cost about 1,111 dirhams, or 116 of your coins, again using the market exchange rate. Hence, the same basket of goods is more expensive in the UAE and less expensive in Egypt relative to your country. If we set the price level reference to the basket in your country as 100, then the price level of Egypt is 35 and for UAE, 116. To understand this better, let's consider the price level index, or PLI, which is the ratio of an economy's PPP to its market exchange rate. PLIs provide a measure of the difference in price levels between economies by indicating the number of units of a common currency needed to buy the same quantity in each economy. If the world average price level is set at 100, then an economy with a PLI higher than 100 is relatively more expensive compared to the world average, and if its PLI is lower than 100, then the opposite would be true. Now, let's bring back the three circles. Here, the Arab region's average PLI is set at 100. Let's align the economies vertically by their price levels. Egypt appears to be relatively less expensive compared to the regional average. UAE is relatively more expensive. Saudi Arabia is closest to the regional average among the three. Let's bring in other economies from the Arab region. Now you can see more clearly the relationship between price levels, GDP per capita of economies, and the real size of economies. You may spot some noteworthy patterns by sub-region or by specific groupings of economies. This chart can also be utilized for in-depth analyses of various GDP components, such as actual individual consumption, government consumption, gross fixed capital formation, and so forth. Using time series data is also informative. ESCWA developed an innovative initiative which distinguished the Arab region by producing and releasing an annual time series of actual PPPs at a detailed level, allowing for measuring and tracking annual changes in economic trends. These data visualizations enable better understanding and analysis of the structure of the Arab economy.